Okay, guys, last speaker of the night, Rahul is somewhere. Rahul is from Jersey, and his fun fact that he wants to share with you is a perfect date for him consists of... Yeah, I did finish it. Why don't you finish that?
I don't even remember what I said. I think it consists of a bag of Sour Patch Kids and a slip and slide. Sure. We can have some fun with that, right? All right. I don't even know what that means. Wear protection. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to be appropriate. I will. Right. This is the yarn. We take ourselves seriously here. All right, we're going to do it. Everyone's been really good tonight. Awesome stuff. So give it up for everyone who went. It's been a really good night. Let's figure out how to do this. All right, so I'll start for real now. Okay. No, you can't time this. I'm the last one. There's no one after. I have all of you guys right now here, night in my hands. It would be rude if you left. All right. Okay, I'm going to actually start now. That was a joke. It's a joke. I'm not drunk anymore. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So what do you do? Well, I'm a consultant. I think PowerPoint slides, they really get me off. So what do you do? Oh, I'm in private equity, PE. Yeah, I'm a buyer side kind of guy. What do you do? Oh, you're in tech. Yeah. I got a new app. Yeah, it measures how much gluten my dog's eating. On the daily. Good stuff. What do you do? I'm sure you guys have heard that question 1,000 times, especially now that you're back at Sloan. What do you do? And the thing about that question is, it doesn't really tell you that much about that person, right? What do I do? So I thought, okay, now's my opportunity. Erica came up to me, asked me to talk, and I said, okay, should I talk about what I did? Because fuck, I've done a lot, right? I mean, we've all done a lot. That's why we're at Sloan. We look sexy on paper, you know? So, what I did, should I talk about being a rock star, you know? Should I talk about getting drunk every night, rocking out, and then making eye contact with a girl in the crowd, then after the show, bringing her backstage? That only happened once. But that happened once. It did. And it was amazing. I gave her the best 60 seconds of her life. Okay. Should I talk about international development? Should I talk about living in Ecuador and how gorgeous it was to live in the Andes Mountains? But at the same time, it was kind of dangerous. I saw my girlfriend's parents get robbed at gunpoint by her taxi cab driver. Should I talk about Uganda? Should I talk about running in a riot from tear gas bombs as there was a new presidential election? Should I talk about Burning Man? As the people who know me will probably say, no, stop talking about Burning Man. Stop it. There's only so much you can say about a cuddle puddle in the middle of a sandstorm. It's good stuff. You can find yourself, self-reflect, right? Self-actualize. So I decided that, no, I'm not going to talk about any of those things, even though I just kind of did. I'm not going to talk about what I did. I'm going to talk about why. I'm going to talk about why I do the work I do. And for that to start, I think we're going to rewind the clock a little bit. We're going to go back to the burbs, to New Jersey. I know, it's very shocking, right? A brown guy at MIT from the privileged suburbs of New Jersey. Like this, I must be an outlier, right? It's not something you see every day here. But no, I loved it. I actually loved being from New Jersey. I loved high school. It was great. It wasn't that bad. We had these little cookie cutter McMansions that we all grew up in. When you turn 16, you get your first car. Mine was a Lexus, but don't worry, it wasn't spoiled. It was used. And it was great. It was really nice. But at the same time, everything looks better from the outside, right? So in that nice house of ours, it wasn't totally perfect. In fact, my parents were way different than me, right? Typical immigrant story. They came here with nothing, and they wanted to raise their kids in a very strict, traditional household. And if you guys know me, you guys know that I'm not like that. And I'm very, very different. And so me and my parents had a lot of culture clashes. And I get it. They grew up under very different circumstances than we did. But at the same time, my parents were really, really strict. And they came from an arranged marriage, right? So they didn't even know what dating was. And the idea of their son dating these white devils was just beyond them. They would not let that happen. And I remember one night when a girl called at our house past 10 p.m. on like a Wednesday night when I was in middle school. This was a big no-no. And my dad, he was this short guy, he's about this tall, he's bald, he has a big old Indian dad pot belly, he just wore tidy whities around the house. And after that, he just busted into my room. He just climbed up the stairs, busted in my room. And some of you guys already know this, but he said, "Rahul, I am going to tell you something that you will never forget." And I said, "Dad, I'm super sorry. This normally doesn't happen." He goes, "Rahul, a penis, it has a head, but no brain." And it's true. It's true. To this day, I've never forgotten that. And every single time I go out, I just think, all right, remember, no brain on that one. Yeah. Okay, but I'm stop joking. But then he had a very, very short temper. And he came from a society that was very patriarchal. And so he was constantly getting into fights with my mom. And he was constantly yelling at me, too, as well. And so I was scared of him. I was absolutely terrified of him. And for me in high school, the way I coped with it, when they would start fighting downstairs, it was always in the same place. It was in the kitchen or in the living room. And they would start fighting. And I don't know what it is about just fighting and getting that primal kind of carnage out. But you just revert to your native tongue. And so they would just go into Hindi or Marathi. These are all Indian languages. And they would talk like it. And I didn't want to learn the languages because I didn't even want to know the things that my dad was saying to my mom. And so what I would do is I would just leave. I would leave the kitchen, leave the living room, and I would go upstairs to my room. And what I would do is I would put on my headphones, and I would just slowly crank up the music in my Discman, my Sony Discman. And it didn't matter, it didn't matter if it was Jimi Hendrix guitar licks. It didn't matter if it was funky beats from A Tribe Called Quest. I would just keep turning it up until their voices would just fade away. And suddenly it was just the music in my ears. And I wasn't naive. It's not that I thought that, okay, now that I'm listening to this, that fight's not happening, or that problem's not happening. It was still there. But I didn't have to deal with it. That was my way of coping. And so then, moving on, what my parents made me do is actually, they wanted me to get a real job. They wanted me to go to college. And so throughout high school, I would do this, and then they sent me to India. I would go every single summer. And then one summer, it really made a lasting impact on me. And I'm going to finish off on this story. I know I'm long. So this happened one summer. I was working, and I was shadowing at a hospital, and everything was going pretty fine. It was pretty mundane stuff, but they would let you get away with things like third-year medical students here in the U.S. would not get away with. So I was taking blood samples, I was taking glucose samples, and everything was fine. I was on my track to be a doctor. And then one night, a girl gets rushed into our hospital room. And I will never forget the look of trepidation just on her face. She was terrified, and that stare was contagious. And suddenly the whole hospital, the whole emergency room just sprung into action. There were beads of sweat just pouring down her face, and there was this milky white froth just coming out of her mouth. And I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. I was still in high school. And I could see next to her was her husband. And he was this tall, skinny, lanky dude. And he was just completely irate. He was angry. He was super, super angry. And I didn't understand, how could he be so angry when his wife was dying on the bed in front of him? And so I told him, I was like, sir, you gotta go. You gotta go into the waiting room, right? Just wait for her. We're gonna try our best to save her. And he is screaming in Hindi. Again, I'm hearing the screaming in Hindi, but now I can't turn the volume up. I can't not hear him. And I'm asking the other doctors, well, what is he saying? What's he saying? And they tell me, well, he's saying, well, if she wants to die, then I'm gonna kill her myself. So she was in an arranged marriage. And it was a violent one. And in India, there's no divorce in her community. The only way she could get out of it was by swallowing a ton of cockroach repellent. So as we're trying to save her right now, her husband is stomping back and forth in the waiting room. And I don't know what to do. Because even if we do save her, and we don't even have the tools, we're using a stick and shoving it down her throat to get her gag reflex going. And even if we do save her, I don't know that she's not going to get killed tonight. So I asked the doctor, well, what do we do? You know, is there any refuge that we can send her to? Is there a safe home, a shelter? And he looks at me really perplexed and he goes, what are you talking about? He looks at me like I didn't know how to perform medicine in India at all. He says, that's not what we do. Our job is to save her life right now and we're going to give her back. But to me, that wasn't enough. To me, the system itself was at fault. To me, that was the instance where I knew that I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to make sure that people like that didn't come into our waiting rooms. I wanted to be in public health. I wanted to affect the systems itself. And that's what I've been doing. And it doesn't matter if it's in India. It doesn't matter if it's in Africa. It doesn't matter if it's in Latin America. It doesn't matter if it's Cambridge right now. Because these problems, they're not going away. I can't just turn up the volume anymore. I'm not in high school anymore. So now what I do is I take off my headphones and I go downstairs. Thanks.